Hello, guys. What a mess. Hey, guys, I'm Mouse, and I'm going to show you some comic books that I've got in the last 2 weeks and some other odds and ends and stuff, right? I didn't do a live show last weekend, even though I've got a little bit of a haul video. The girlfriend ended up in the hospital for a few days, so we, had to take care of a few things there. And so I figured, hey, you know what? I'll just record a video and show 2 weeks worth of flea market stuff I found. I found some pretty good stuff. One of the first things I want to show is when I was on sabbatical. I used to make things when I was a kid. I mean, this is a collage piece with some ripped up comics that I had sitting around. And it's just on a piece of cardboard that you get when you buy a pizza, okay, and did this. But I think it's Tom Ryan on Instagram and stuff. Man, he started making a couple of these, and he's made some beautiful ones, right? But as you can see, it's just a Neil Adams Batman comic book cover there with a few other little things, some pictures of a old torn up Dan Jurgens Justice League, which I wasn't a fan of, which surprised me. What was even in my collection, so I figured, hey, why not? I looked at it and did it, and then of course what did I put on it? I coated something on it there, so it was pretty good. I think I'd show that off. Two little things that I did pick up that I had to do it. Ollie's had this. There's a Green Goblin one that I'll probably go back and get. Maybe it's cheaper than what this was. But this was a little bit less than $10 and stuff. But it's these hand painted statues that I have no idea who this company is. I don't know who put these out, but this is number 3 of a set, The Incredible Hulk. As you can see in the stand, it comes with a stand. I haven't opened it up yet, but that's what we got. And there's a couple of, they have a whole set of these and stuff. We're towards the end of the day, so I'm using what light we have here. Hopefully this is showing up. And then there's a place in Brush Fork, West Virginia, which is probably 40 minutes away from me, across the state line and stuff. And Spookables is something definitely you want to look up on Instagram, and he might have a Facebook page, Jason Scott, that owns the place. But basically, it's just his whole store could probably make up 2 of this comic book room, and it's packed full of retro toys and music and comic books and magazines and Shogun Warriors and action figures that are still carded. A couple years ago, I sold him a few things, right? And some of the things are still there. He has a storage building. He brought them out. And I was able to pick this up again. He may or may not have sold the one that I sold to him a few years ago. Because I kept the package that Toy Fair mailed this into. It was just a cardboard box that just fit snugly in there. But I'm a huge, and I'm going to call it what it is. It's officially Gotchamon from Japan. It's a serialized cartoon from Japan that aired in the early 70s, and it came over here in the late 70s in America, but it got edited way down from what it was, and it was called Battle of the Planets. And this is an exclusive princess figure from the 90s that I got out of either Toy Fair, I'm sure. Wizards magazine used to have comic book news, movie news, action figure news, little price guides in there, cards, and all that stuff. And then they kind of split things up to where the toy section got its own book called Toy Fair. But anyway, this was an exclusive. It comes with a miniature of her bike. I think she has a yo-yo also that she uses as a weapon. But what makes this an exclusive is that there was a whole set of these Battle of the Planet toys that came out, and this is the one without her hood. Um, you know, her hood on there. There's the regular ones. You know, but I love these. Okay, quite the cartoon to wake up to when you're like 5 years old. Never saw anything like it, and it was serialized. So I discovered Johnny Quest and that at the same time. Okay, so last week they had Hillsville, Virginia. If you followed this channel over the years, you know that's twice a year I go down there. They turn the whole town into a flea market. I think they've been doing it for over 30 years, possibly 40. I don't know. I know it just seems like it's always been. And I think I started going in the late 90s. I don't know, But anyway, I went down there and I hit a Friday night. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday throughout the whole Memorial Day weekend. And I just hit a situation the way that I had like a chance to be down there on a Friday night. Um, and this is what I was able to find like in about 2 hours that I was down there and came home, and then wasn't able to go back, which was no big deal. But I got a few good things. I think I paid about $1 a piece for this. But go back to when Grant Morrison took over the Justice League, made it JLA. You know, brought it back, gave us our, he basically had the theme of bringing in the, top hitters of the DC universe, if you will, and he sort of treated them like Mount Olympus and the Greek gods. Superman would be Zeus, and Aquaman would be Poseidon. Batman was kind of considered Ares, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? But he made it like a pantheon, right? Well, in the midst of all this, he brought in an angel here, and the angel, I want to say his name was Azrael. Azrael. It's been a while, man. But anyway, this was a 3 issue miniseries that came out of that GLA Pass, Paradise Lost, and this was Mark Miller, who was sort of like Grant Morrison's little buddy. Grant Morrison would kind of. It came off to the fans that Grant Morrison was kind of helping Mark Miller get books and things. Grant Morrison came on to Swamp Thing with Mark Miller, then kind of handed it off. They had a book called Aztec that kind of played into his JLA work, and eventually Mark Miller became his own guy with the Ultimates and Kick Ass and stuff. So some early stuff there. Now, I have a very few holy grails I want to get. I would love to get DC Comics number 26, first appearance of Marv Wolf and George Perez, Titans, Raven, Cyborg, Starfire. I would love to be able to find the new Teen Titans number 2, first appearance of Deathstroke, just so I can finish up the run. There's Fantastic Four going all the way back to the Silver Age. I think it's, oh my God, 26 and 27. It starts out with Fantastic, the Thing versus the Hulk, and then the next issue it's the Hulk versus the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. Everybody shows up. And then there was this Marvel Treasury edition that was in my house when I was a kid, where it's the Fantastic Four versus Galactus with Airwalker, the new Herald, and it was by John Buscema and things like that. And it was actually the issues 120 through 123 of the Fantastic Four. Well, I was able to find 2 of these, and these were 30% off. Was that what it was? 30 or 40% off is what the guy had. So I went ahead and paid for it because this is one of my favorite Fantastic Four arcs as a kid. Okay. Which was just fantastic. I love this character of Gabriel the Airwalker. They thought he was really an angel bringing about revelations, and then before you found out that he was a android herald of Galactus, and we got to see our Silver Surfer. That possibly could be the first Silver Surfer story I ever read. What's also cool about these is that they have the Schul's jewelry inserts. I haven't looked them up. I don't know, but every now and then you'll have comics that came out with these over the years. It was just an insert where you could order jewelry out of them, obviously, and sometimes that increases the value of the comic, which was fantastic. John Buscema was just fantastic on this book, in my opinion. From what I read. Then what was really cool about that is when you dig around and you check things, you find free stuff. I got a beat up copy of Fantastic Four number 77. And what's wild about this is that, yes, it was free. That's the guy kind of made it fun as you went through his stuff. But this is the Psycho Man, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee. But I have a coverless copy I've carried around that I inherited from my stepdad. You know, since day one of reading comics way back in the day, and now I have one with a cover beat up, but it was free, which is very cool, part of the fun. I've been finding this book left and right. I looked forever for I have the first appearance of Lobo, which is in Mega Man number 3. His second appearance was number 5, and things like that. So I discovered Lobo through the Justice League books by Keith Giffen and Jay DeMantis, Kevin McGuire and stuff, right? So it took forever just to find issue number 5. All of a sudden, the Omega Men issues that had Lobo in them, were they were becoming hard to find, right? This is my third copy. I think there's gonna be another one in the stack, but yeah, in the last 2-3 months, I found 3 copies of this. Like I said, these were all $1 except for those Fantastic Four issues, right? I pick this up wherever I go. This is my 3rd or 4th copy of this. But what's amazing is that every time I get a copy, it's a better and better copy. It's an upgrade, right? This one right here. Martial Law takes Manhattan. Martial Law hates heroes. He's actually a kind of like a cop bounty hunter that hunts heroes because you find out they're all flawed and messed up and things like that. He's never really met a hero. And this is the one where it's published through Epic Comics. And this was really brave, man, because he rips the Marvel Universe a new one in this one, right? I mean, they just go after him, pointing out things, right? It all takes place in Asylum, you know. So just great stuff. I've talked about that many, many times here. And here's something that's very cool. Well, let me show you this real quick. Getting on board, I probably almost have all the Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover books from the 80s. I've been doing a thing where I've been completing event books of the 80s and early 90s and things, right? I think this may be, if this is not the last, this is the second to last books I needed because unfortunately, a lot of the books that are considered Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover books don't have the banner on them to tell you. They might mention it, but you may just have a heroes going through a whole story, and they just have the red skies, like what were in what was in the miniseries and stuff, and they consider that, you know, part of it. Now this was cool. I picked this up for $1 because it was there. And it's Adventure Comics number 479. I hope this camera's picking up. I'm running out of daylight over here, right? And it's the return of Dial H for Hero. And the reason I got this is that this was in 1980. There was a full page ad you can find in DC Comics. And they had a bunch of comics in 2 rows there saying how it's new and exciting and everything. And this was one of the books. Well, I think now that I have this, I have every book in that ad. And I was sort of like, why not? So I get this. And the premise was kids, fans, people who read it, the reader would send in heroes, their own creations, give them a name and a costume and stuff. And the kids in here would do their dials and turn into the heroes, and you would get a credit for, your hero that you were in there, right? So what's really cool about this one? It talks about like Ted or something, give a slight, that would be a hero in here and would have the hero's name and it would have the person who submitted it and the town they were in. And the first thing, there's this guy, the Silver Fog, he made the villain, and it was sent in by Harlan Ellison from Akron, Ohio, which was really cool. I think that guy went places. I think that guy had a lot of potential to be famous and stuff, but I thought that was pretty cool. Harlan Ellison submitting a hero for Dial H, which was fantastic. Now my problem is that I would like to go back and look at some earlier issues of Adventure Comics to see how the kids knew to send this stuff in. If this is the first issue in the debut, there's no internet back then. Was there an ad or was there something in the letter column saying send in your submissions? We're going to put them in. I don't know. How did they get those first submissions and stuff, right? So that's the Hillsville Flea Market that I hit in about 2 hours. That's some stuff right there. A lot of good stuff. Few grails and stuff, right? And I showed you the statues and stuff. And this is what I got today. All right. We went down there real early this morning. We had no problem getting up. We went down there, had a biscuit, a little bit of coffee. The crowd hadn't hit. I knew the 2 or 3 places to hit for comics right off the bat. And we kind of walked around, had a pretty good time. Went and watched Godzilla after this. Ate at Olive Garden. I'm not real impressed with Olive Garden ever. I'm more in the mindset of why people think that it's such a fantastic restaurant, But anyway, we ate there, but found some really good stuff. And usually I'll lead off, usually if you want to hook people to watch your videos, you say you have these great books that you want to show, and there's going to be a big one at the end of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and dig out the 2 big ones I found right off the bat. First book that I found will be part of the 50-cent lot that I found. There was a guy selling books 2 for $1. He said that he had bought a 25-issue collection or something off of somebody. And he was just, had a bunch of Teen Titans. Some really good stuff in there, and this stuff was in phenomenal shape. But when I started seeing Suicide Squad in there, I'm like, I wonder, because, almost every issue was in there after issue 2 or 3, So I get up there and I look there, and lo and behold, there it is. For 50 cents, I get this book. This book's for maybe $55 from what I remember. And this is I would probably sell this one for 50. But it's Suicide Squad number 23. I think it's from 89. Yeah, 89, 88. Probably November of 88 is what I'm thinking, right? But this came out. This is the first appearance of Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, as Oracle, and so it's considered a first appearance there, despite all the reboots in '52 and things like that. This is still a hot book, and it just sort of amazed me that I was like 50 cents, So it kind of was like great. Now this was a book that I had a whole run of this right off the rack, right? And I was buying this, and I was buying Captain America, and I was buying all sorts of things because I'm in middle school / going high school, whatever, you know. And I ended up selling a lot of those books, big runs, to my brother in the '90s there, right? So he has them, and I was always sort of like, you just wait. Something in that I'm selling to him will end up being worth money. You know what I mean? And I sold them to him because I needed room at the time. You know what I mean? I needed some room, right? It's one of the few times I did a purge, right? And then all of a sudden, Avengers Endgame comes out, and I knew this was going to happen. Uh, Something happened in the movie. If you haven't seen it, here's a big spoiler. I'm going to say it, okay? But anyway, Captain America ends up picking up Thor's hammer. He's worthy, right? I always knew that. I wasn't real shocked as a lot of people were who like just watch the movies. But this is Mighty Thor 390. This book now booked for anywhere from 50 to $60. And on eBay, it still is hot. There's some auctions that I looked at today that were starting out at $5 and $7, but when you get to the ones that are about to end, this book was up to 70 and $80. Uh, so yeah, this is 390. This is where he's known as the Captain, not Captain America, but it's Steve Rogers picks up Mjolnir in this, right? It was amazing. Some more 50-cent books moving right along here, all right? I love my Legion. I really love my Legion, right? So I'm getting closer and closer to getting this Legion 89 through 94. Whatever the year was that the book came out, they changed the date on it. So, I guess this was to make sure you didn't think this was the Legion of superheroes in the 1,000 years in the future. But some great Dan Barrington covers. I'm really enjoying this series, but I'm liking the Alan Grant, Keith Giffen issues that they did. Maybe the first 2 years so far. Really cool series, really fun. I do feel like there's sort of a kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy got the smell of the tone of their movies from this. It's not an out and out rip off. I wouldn't go get this if you're like Guardians of the Galaxy fan of the movie and stuff, but there's something here that every time I read this, I keep thinking Guardians of the Galaxy. Getting closer and closer to finishing up getting the Baxter series that started in 1984. These are good and cheap. I know they started finally putting them in hardback or trades or something. I kind of laughed. And then in the '90s, they came in and sort of made them a little bit more modern. Got those 50 cents a piece. This was another 50 cent a piece book out of the 50-cent book out of this little haul. But this is Dick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. From '89, I think, number 6. There is another comic. I don't know if it's an Astonishing Tales or a Deathlock, but we'll say it's an homage to that. But take this. You see how Nick Fury is in this position? There's a mirrored image from the other comic of Deathlock, and they've done the same thing. He's holding the gun, and he has all these figures inside of him. And if you put them side by side, it's a mirror image of Nick Fury and Deathlock. I'm gonna be looking for the other book to have that. I love things like that. Rivet, if you're a Frank Cho fan, if you're a Frank Thorne fan, and let's face it, before there was Frank Cho and Adam Hughes, there was Frank Thorne, but this is Rivet from Kamiko. For decades, everybody that collected comics around here and stuff would know about this company, but they called it Comico. Once you know it, you get on YouTube a little bit, talk about it online somewhere, and you've got people coming at you like it's Kamiko. So Kamiko is what we'll go with here. But he did a 4-issue miniseries of a magically altered frog who turns into a girl named Rivet who skateboards, I think, or something like that. But this is issue number 3. It was 4 issues. I can now read the miniseries. I've had 1, 2, and 4 forever. I read number 1, said I want all of them, and I finally found number 3. Okay. Now, there was a deal here. I think I got all of these for $10. They're going to be mixed and match here, but one of the things I got is this 1982 Stan Lee Steve Buscema hardback graphic novel of the Silver Surfer with a Joe Jusko cover. This is freaking classic. This is awesome. And every page is a splash page by John Buscema. And I think he plotted this or co-plotted this. All right. Well, we have Galactus. We have Mephisto. We have our preachy Silver Surfer. And we have a lot of splash pages on here. Nova shows up. just really great stuff. This was $15 in 1982. And for you guys that are around back then, I just know that you know, a $5 allowance could get you comic books, GI Joe, or a He-Man figure, and you know, you could stretch out $5. So something that was a $15 book back then, kind of wild, right? Um, Now some of this stuff I got for a lot for $10 and another lot for $10, right? So we'll just say that, you know, we'll just go ahead and call it what it is. All these for $20, right? Including this, all right, including this hardback, right? But Mayfair Games had a DC Heroes role-playing game, right? I have a module one-on-one Flash game where you would have a game master and somebody to play the Flash, and you would have stats. It's just, you know, D&D just made the role-playing thing explode back in the 80s, at least, right? Project Prometheus. I wanted this one because I would see it advertised somewhere. I don't know, it's some role-playing magazine in the 80s or something that kind of followed this stuff, maybe. And where I saw Project Prometheus on it, it always made me think of the Titans. So I buy this today. I finally look at it, and it's not a Titans. I think you're supposed to make your own characters or pick one out of here. It's completely new. This is one of the first ones they did from '85. The Mayfair game stuff, I have all the Watchmen stuff that they did. That's how I ended up finding this, right? This was just a joy. I found it says volume one, who knows? But I found the source book to play Legion of Superheroes. It has all the stats of the Legion of Superheroes. It talks about their headquarters, a little bit of their history. They take images from the Who's Who and put them in here. You can play as Ultra Boy, Monel, Wildfire, just all sorts of things. Like the trivia you can just get out of this if you don't even play the game is amazing. Ended up getting this, right? We're at the 30th anniversary of Tim Burton's Batman, and I saw 4 or 5 books that were like comics interviews and David Allen Kraft's interviews of anything related to the Batman movie, which I think I already have over here, that's why I didn't buy it. But yeah, we got the movie book. It's, you know, the official book to the movie in here. So you get images and behind the scenes stuff and gadgets. It's really cool if you like it. Pictures, Jack Nicholson. And then we go back to the Mayfair game stuff. Of course, I had to get this. This is the Batman source book if I want to be Batman. And you get all kinds of little blueprints of his utility belt from back in the day and all his Batmobiles, the cave, you know, all character stats, every villain in there. And I want to say in the back of this, you have a one-on-one game that you can play as Batman and a little story, I guess, to introduce you, if I remember right. Yeah, it's called Double Jeopardy, a one-on-one adventure starring Batman. So this was just really cool. This stuff is really good for the trivia if you don't want to play the games or you can't get anyone to play the games or you're not interested in stuff like that, right? So Marvel graphic novels. There's things I'm trying to get. What kind of Howler House video would it be if I don't sit here and bitch about today's comics? But you can just take this money and go back and find really good stuff that you kind of had your eye on, right? And I've got the breakdown. They used to come out with these Marvel Super Specials or these movie adaptions like this one in a graphic novel form, and then they would make newsstand editions of them where they would break them up in 1 or 2 part, mini series, right? Take the original adaptation and then make them in there. And Bob Hall did this. I'm a Bob Hall fan, right? Charlton 66 and I met him last year at Baltimore Con. Big fan of his Squadron Supreme of the 80s and his Shadow Man of the 90s at Valiant Comics. And he stepped in and he did the art for the adaptation of Willow the movie. And they broke this down into, I've had the newsstand editions for a while, but now I have the Marvel graphic novel, which was fantastic, right? Something I think these were $1 a piece, maybe. We're about done here, right? But more Frank Thorne. Like I said, I already have a copy of this, but this is an upgrade. Red Sonja from the Bronze Age got to get her own book. Just fantastic stuff there. And I got really nervous, right? Years ago, and it's in a video somewhere, I was at that Hillsville place, and I can't remember. I think I got almost every issue of Jack Kirby's Eternals. It seems like it was like maybe for 25 cents, 50 cents, or $1 or something. So I had those for years, but there was 3 issues missing, and an annual, and issues 11 and 14. I found the annual down the line, I think, and then all of a sudden they do the movie, and I'm realizing there's 2 issues I need to get, and I'm like, oh great, they've announced that Marvel's going to make a movie of them. The prices get jacked up, and I find out number 11 is already worth some money, right? I ended up finding these today for $5 a piece, and I went ahead and laid it down. I did it, right? I'm like, now or never, they're coming out with the Marvel movie. I need these to have a complete set, right? But this seems, I think this was the one that I kind of looked up and it was getting kind of pricey because I think it has a first appearance of a Celestial or something in it. Who knows? At the time I'm recording this, but from the time that I looked at it could, be worth nothing. Planetary by Warren Ellis is a series of videos that I have on here in a playlist that I need to go back and finish. I think I made it to issue 15. There's 27 issues and a few one-shots and their first appearance and stuff, right? But I was taking an issue of Planetary and giving each one a very in-depth, detailed breakdown of the book and the influence. Planetary is a book where not only are the characters sort of archaeologists, but as a reader, you get to be an archaeologist. With each issue, they go into a genre or an influence of comics going all the way back to the pulps and stuff, right? You never know what you're going to get. They even did monster movies and stuff, things like that. I broke it down, but I have a full set. This is going to be my third or fourth number one of this, and here's number 9, where it's the Steranko influenced issue, I think, with the pop art and stuff, maybe. But anyway, I'm getting a whole set up, a second set going, because I'm going to get these bound. I'm finally going to have a bound comic, and Planetary is the one I'm going to do. So I've got a stack here somewhere, the ones that I already have for that bound edition. I'm always looking for more. But yeah, Planetary is a very special book, right? And then something's going on. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing or something. But Jim Lee hopped on Alpha Flight with issue 51, came up with the Dream Queen and some other things that popped up in there. And believe it or not, these books are actually kind of hard to find in the wild because it's some of the first Jim Lee art. But I'm trying to get a few more issues of Alpha Flight here with the Jim Lee issues and all the Dream Queen appearances. No idea what's going on with it. Maybe I'm busting up, monotony. One more thing here to close out the video. If you stuck here, right? Like I said, this is 2 flea markets and stuff, but we have a comic book shop that has gone full game story in Radford. I think that's what the guy told me. There's people in there role playing or doing something today. I went in there to try to get some short boxes since I was in the area, and the guy tells me that all the comic book stuff is now 40% off because they're out. They're out of. They're not going to do it. They have a bunch of comics they can't get rid of. The comics aren't selling. They're out, so they're going full gaming. And they had a bunch of posters and things that they were selling for $2 a pop, maybe. So me being the guy that I am, ended up finding this one, a promotional poster for the Squadron Sinister. I love these offbeat second-tier characters and stuff. This is, of course, Marvel's version of the Justice League. So yeah, I went ahead and grabbed that. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for hanging in there. Maybe I'll do a live show here when I get a little bit of time. We get a little bit of light. Hope this showed up all well. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Share this thing. Let us know, that people know we're here. And carry on. Later, guys.